Have you ever just looked at a map of Japan and wondered how that perfect, elegant arc of islands even got there? I mean, it wasn't always like that. The real story of its creation is this violent, 50 million year epic. We're talking continents ripping apart, land masses doing a wild pirouette, and an entire nation literally being forged by fire. So let's dive into this incredible geological journey. Japan Deep Dive Report Hey Yokoso. Welcome, everyone. We are about to uncover how a tiny piece of a continent became one of the most geologically active and dynamic places on the entire planet. And, the whole story really begins with a single, pretty surprising number. 7%. Get this, that's the percentage of all the world's active volcanoes that are packed into the islands of Japan. Now, for a country that makes up less than 0.3% of the world's land area, that is an absolutely immense concentration of geological power. And it's our first big clue to Japan's violent birth. Okay, so to really understand how Japan was formed, we have to rewind the clock way back, tens of millions of years. Because back then, the land that we now call Japan, it wasn't an island nation at all. Nope, it was actually fused to the eastern edge of the massive Eurasian continent. And this transformation was definitely not quick. The whole process started about 50 million years ago, but the real drama, that kicks off in the Miocene epoch. You can almost think of it like a three-act play. First, there's a violent separation, then a crazy rotation, and finally, the forging of the archipelago. Right, so the crucial thing to get here is that this was not some gentle drift. We're talking about immense crustal movements that began to literally tear this chunk of land away from the mainland. It was a geological event of just incredible scale and violence. So as Proto-Japan was being pulled away from the continent, the crust in between them stretched. It got thin, and then it just collapsed, forming this massive lowland basin. And what happens next? Seawater rushed in to flood this new depression, and in that moment, a brand new body of water was born, the Sea of Japan. Now, here's where the story gets even more incredible, if you can believe it. The landmass that separated didn't just float eastward in a straight line. It performed this complex two-part rotation, a pirouette on a continental scale that would give Japan its signature, beautiful curve. So the first part of this movement involved the southern half. Southwest Japan pivoted clockwise, with its anchor point somewhere near what we now call the Tsushima Strait. This rotation started to shape the western part of the country that we recognize today. And at the very same time, northeast Japan was rotating the other way, counterclockwise, pivoting off the coast of what is now Hokkaido. And it's these two opposing rotations, one clockwise, one counterclockwise, that bent the entire archipelago into its famous, distinctive arc. Long before geologists ever figured any of this out, the people who were living on these newly formed islands had their own name for their world. And this name, Oyashima no Kuni, comes from one of Japan's oldest historical texts, the Nihon Shoki, which was completed all the way back in the year 720. And the name Oyashima no Kuni has just incredible cultural depth. It means the land of 8 great islands. But this wasn't just a literal head count. See, in Japanese mythology, the number 8 is sacred. It represents completeness, maybe infinity, or sometimes just many. It's this beautiful, poetic name that connects the physical land to its deepest cultural and mythological roots. So the archipelago had its shape, but the story was far from over. A whole new force came into play. The massive Pacific Plate began pushing relentlessly from the east, compressing this new island chain, kind of like a giant vice. And this process was unbelievably powerful. The immense pressure from the Pacific Plate literally buckled the land. What was once the floor of a shallow sea got squeezed, folded, and just thrust violently upwards, creating the incredible mountain ranges that form the spine of Japan, including the famous Japanese Alps. And the result of all that compression is, frankly, staggering. A full 75% of Japan's land area is made up of mountains and foothills. I mean, think about that. That single geological fact defines pretty much everything, from where people can live to the entire nation's climate. So, that mountainous spine we were just talking about, it doesn't just dominate the landscape, it actually creates Japan's climate. It acts like a massive wall running down the middle of the country, and it fundamentally shapes the weather, creating this land of distinct seasons and really stark contrasts. Yeah, those mountains pretty much split the country in two. They block the seasonal winds, the monsoons. So the Pacific side, it gets these hot, humid summers and dry, sunny winters. But the Sea of Japan side gets hammered by moisture-filled winter winds that dump some of the heaviest snowfall anywhere in the world. Just two completely different climates, separated by a single mountain range. So what you end up with is this land of beautiful extremes. I mean, this dynamic climate creates four really distinct seasons and incredible biodiversity. But it also brings those potent seasonal winds, powerful typhoons, and just massive snowfalls, making Japan a place of both stunning natural beauty and pretty significant natural hazard. And it was into this dynamic, newly formed, and sometimes dangerous landscape that the first humans arrived. Around 38,000 years ago, during the Ice Ages, when sea levels were way lower, land bridges briefly reconnected Japan to the mainland, allowing people and animals to cross over and begin the human story of Japan. So, after all that, what's the recipe for Japan? Well, you start with a piece of the Eurasian continent. Then you add a really violent separation. You stir that with a dynamic two-part rotation. You forge it all with intense volcanic fire and tectonic pressure. And then you garnish with some powerful seasonal winds. This whole process is just such a powerful reminder that Japan isn't a static place. It's a land defined by constant creation and destruction, sitting right at the intersection of these immense natural forces. And it kind of leaves us with a final question, right? In a story that's already 50 million years old, what could the next chapter of Japan's geological epic possibly look like?
Unwritten.